Welcome to CEO Unplugged on iHeartRadio with Froggy. Today we are here with somebody who I have so many questions for because it's such an amazing product. It's nice to talk to the actual co-founder of Halo Collar. We're here with Ken Ehrman. Ken, thank you so much for taking time to come on the podcast.
Thank you, Froggy. It's great to be here.
So my question, Ken, is how does something go from just a thought in your head, which it really is an amazing thought when you think about what Halo Collar does versus where we've been in the past with the old antiquated fence in the ground around your house technology. How does it go from a thought in your head to where it's now actually on my dogs and keeping them safe every time they go somewhere?
Right. That is a great question because I've had many ideas myself that haven't actually gone and done.
Right.
But this one, unfortunately, kind of came out of a tragedy. So my niece's dog got out of their invisible fence, and they had just rescued Ruby. They loved her more than anything, and she got out of their invisible fence and was run over by a car and killed. And it was such a tragedy, and we were all just really so sad. And at that same time, my experience, my background was I was in the technology space for tracking forklifts, rental cars, and tractor trailers.
Wow.
I was like, right away, a light bulb went off, and I said, this is a problem I could solve. You can't get out of GPS. So if we erase the wire and just draw a GPS fence on your phone, your dog can't get out. And that was kind of the beginning. And then
that's where we have now reached the point where you and I are no longer in the same space, because I would think of that and go, oh yeah, I can't do that, and just go back to where we were. But you actually put like your thought into process, and now here we are with the amazing Halo Collar. How long did it take you to develop this from where you first had this thought, unfortunately, to Ruby and her passing, to where now it is readily available in the marketplace?
Right. Well, what's interesting is I thought it would be much faster than it really was, because I was already doing it for these other types of assets. And so I knew the technology underlying it. I knew how to make it in huge quantities for very demanding customers. And it still took about 3.5 years. So we started and filed our first patents in March of 2018. We launched what we called the early adopter collars, which was 3,000 collars in late 2020. Then we went to mass production in 2021, and the growth has been amazing. And many dogs are now saved. I mean, part of the issue was, and why I was so driven on this one, is not only did it happen to my niece, but then when I Googled it, it's so sad. I mean, it basically says that 1 million dogs are hit by a car every year, and 10 million dogs are lost. And I know how much I love my dog Reese's. I have the invisible fence, and I would do anything for her.
Right.
And to me, I was like, this is a problem that I have the expertise to solve, the relationships, the experience, and I knew it had to be done.
I saw somewhere that I think it was some information I got from you guys that a year, 10 million animals are lost. And to people that have dogs, like you said, you love your dog. I have two little guys that I would give anything for. I mean, people say it jokingly sometimes, we like dogs more than people, but I'm really not kidding. Like my dogs are amazing, man. They don't want anything from us. They just want love. And 10 million dogs a year are getting lost. And yes, the invisible fence around your house, people argue it does work. And I'm not going to say it doesn't work, but once the dog does get outside of that invisible fence, whether it's because you took them to the park or you took them to the beach or you took them to a friend's house, that invisible fence is no longer available. Halo, like you said, you can't escape GPS. And that's why the Halo Collar really, truly is so amazing.
You can't get out of GPS range. Everywhere on the planet is on GPS range. And so the collar is listening to those GPS messages all day long. And if it hears that the location of your dog moves near the edge of the fence, it's going to cause a beep to tell them you're at the fence. So it works autonomously. You don't have to be in the app. You could be on your RV taking your dog. I mean, 14 million people have RVs and 65% of them have dogs. And, they want to let them out, but everyone feels uncomfortable letting their dog out off leash. I mean, you can imagine that feeling. You can just picture it in a second that you have if you take your dog outside. There's traffic around, but even if there's no traffic, and you take your dog off leash, you think she'll listen, but you have no way to assure. In fact, my dog used to listen about 20% of the time, and she's pretty smart.
Right.
My kids used to cry because I'd want to take her off leash in the mountains on a hike, and they'd say, "We don't want to lose Reese's." So I'd go on this amazing hike, but I had to leave her on the leash, or I'd bring her to my brother's house, and I'd have to leave her on the leash. And then his dog's running around like crazy, and my dog's barking. She wants to run and play with their dog. I can't let her off, so I end up not even bringing her. So it's like it's really changed my. Even though Reese's hasn't gotten lost, which is obviously the main goal,
right?
Just the freedom it's brought her. She's, an 11-year-old dog. She's had a whole new life now. She goes she goes on vacations with us. She travels with us. We feel so great about what it's done for Reese's.
Yeah, I mean, it does so much more than just keep them where you want them. Like you said, it allows the dogs to have freedom. Dogs want to run. Yeah. Yes, they are in the house. They love being with us. They love laying on the sofa and doing all the things that we love them for, barking when people come to the door. However, dogs do need freedom. They want to get out. They want to run. They want the exercise. And this collar allows them to have that ability and allows you as an owner the peace of mind knowing that you're not going to lose your dog. But it also does many other things as well. I know there's a training part with the Halo collar that allows you to train your dog, to reward your dog. It goes so much deeper than just the electrical fence and keeping the dog where you want them.
Yes. Well, it's funny because I tell a story the other day. I live in Bergen County. So I grew up listening to Z100, love Z100, by the way.
Nice.
I'm so excited to hear my advertisements on Z100. It's so amazing. So in any event, I drove from my house to Elmer's, which is like the town square over here. And there were 6 invisible fence flags set up. And I was like, what? I mean, who would still, you ruin your driveway.
Right.
There's so many things. I was like, who's still doing this? So I stopped.
And it's only good there. If you want to go to your friend's house, your neighbor's house, you want to go to your in-laws, you want to go to your parents' house, you want to go to the beach, you want to go to a new dog park across town, you want to go on vacation, you can't dig that up and take it with you.
Right. Even if, let's say you rent or you live in a condo or a co-op. Right. I had a waiter in New York City come up to me, saw the collar, saw the box and was like, tell me what that is. And I was like, it's the invisible. Do you know the invisible fence? They said, yeah. I said, well, imagine the invisible fence without a wire. And he's like, that's the coolest thing because I live in the city, but I go to my mother's house every weekend, right, and I can never let her out in the backyard. They're not going to put it in an invisible fence. So he's like, I'm buying it. So even if you live in New York City, when you want to take your dog places, now you can. So what I was also going to say is about the other things, which not just the fence, but like the other capabilities of the system that are interesting, is really it's about not just allowing your dog off leash, but having a great connection with your dog. So it's not just a fence training. It's about almost like, we didn't mention him yet, but like my co-founder is Cesar Milan, the dog whisperer.
Yes.
In 3.5 years, I've been spending hours and hours with Cesar. I mean, I speak to him every day. If I told you stories of the way he walks into a room with dogs and what happens, I mean, it's not just TV. That's all I could tell you. It's real life.
When you open up your Halo collar, this is what you see. Welcome to the pack. And you see Cesar Milan. And that really did. You know what? There's a peace of mind there because he really, truly is the dog whisperer. He absolutely is. There's no doubt.
There's so many stories I could tell you, but I'll just throw out one really quick.
Yeah.
I was having dinner with him and my wife. It was about 2.5-hour dinner. And we're drinking some sake, having a normal, nice dinner. Right. And my wife and Cesar are like arguing about different things, about, philosophies. And I'm like, this is going great. And then after 2.5 hours, he's like, come out to the van. I got my dogs with me. I was like, what? So he comes out there and we open the back of his van and 7 dogs are sitting there. They were in like lined up, waiting to see. They had sat there for 2.5 hours, never barked, didn't go to the bathroom, were perfectly
Wow.
just sitting there for 2.5 hours. And a macaw. There was a macaw in the back with them.
And they didn't mess with the bird either.
None of it. They were all like, oh, welcome
Wow.
back. I was like, who does this? Even my Reese says if I leave her alone in the car for 5 minutes, she's barking,
Right.
she's drooling everywhere. No, it's Caesar is unbelievable.
It is. And having the peace of mind and the, like you said, the connection, because when you do, dogs want to learn, dogs want to please. I have a dog that he wants everything he does. He just wants to please you. He wants to make you happy. And so by doing this, teaching dogs the tricks and how to bond with you and the connection that you make is really absolutely priceless.
Right. Well, when I take Reese's with me now, I feel like Caesar Milan because, like, if I take her and I go somewhere and I hit the whistle button, she comes running back to me like Lassie. She never did that before. I mean, it's crazy. So if I walk her on a leash around the block, I can take her off and not worry. If someone's coming the other way, I hit that whistle button. I'm telling you, it is the coolest thing. She knows what it means and it's instinctual. So basically,
it's like an invisible retractable leash. They just come running right back.
running right back. She knows what you want. It's not
Right.
like she wants to please, but like I asked Caesar, I'm like, why when you call your dog's name, do they not listen? And he's like, because you use their name for so many different things. If they really knew what you wanted, they would come back. But they don't know what you want. They're in the middle of whatever they're doing. They hear their name. That's not going to get them to come to you. But if you train them, whistle means come back, and that whistle comes right out of the speaker, right by their ear. In 3 tries, my dog Reese has got it. And now that she knows what I want, it happens every time. I mean, she's in so many different situations. I use it, and it works awesome.
It's just the benefits of being able to you can store 20 fences in the app, which is really super cool because you go so many places. You don't have to, it's not like you can store 2 fences and you're constantly deleting and recreating and doing all that kind of stuff. You can store 20 fences in the app. And the number one question that I have had is people say, is the collar waterproof if I want to take the dog to the beach? And the answer is
absolutely
yes. It is waterproof. So the dog runs in the water and plays and does that kind of stuff because once again, it's not about having restrictions. Halo Collar is about freedom.
Right. I mean, look, there's a place over here called Rampa Reservation. I take my dog there a lot to go hiking. And the lakes at the top that she loves to swim in, I think in February was frozen, but not completely. And when we got to the top, she was, definitely prepared to go running right into that lake. And I was very nervous about it.
Right.
So I set up the fence and I was able to keep her from getting to that lake. It beeped before she got there and she stopped. So it's like, it really is and many people have said to me, I live near a lake, it gets frozen. I need, you're not going to build an invisible fence around the shore of a lake.
Right.
If you live on the beach, if you have an RV, I mean, the stories, what people have told me about how it's changed their lives is pretty amazing. I have one other piece I wanted to show you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Where it works indoors as well. So I don't know if you've used that element of it.
The little beacon.
The beacons. So these are very simple devices, customized for Halo, of course, but they're Bluetooth transmitters. So just imagine they're sending out a Bluetooth signal. And you could set the range. So, 10 feet to 100 feet. And you basically set it whatever you want. And for example, people put it on their couch if they get a new couch and it'll beep. If your dog gets near the couch, it's going to beep. People put it in their kitchen because they want to keep the dog out of the kitchen. I've had people use it if they have 2 dogs. One dog sometimes eats the other dog's food.
Right.
So they put this beacon near the food so that both dogs eat. So people have come up with a ton of creative ways to use the technology. For me, the last time I used it was at my father-in-law's house because my dog wanted to go swimming, but he had just put in a new flower bed. and they didn't want my dog getting in the flower bed. So
Right.
they're like, she can't come swimming. So I said, that's not right. So I was like, I happen to invent the technology to fix that problem. So I put the beacons in the flower beds, and we brought Rhesus to my father-in-law's. And again, it's just an example of how now I can bring Rhesus to so many places where she used to just stay home most of the time.
Yeah, and if you think that your dog is not smart enough to respond to sound, you're wrong. They're already responding to sound. And I realize this, if your dog hears a doorbell ring, whether it's a real doorbell or doorbell on television, or you've got one of those Ring cameras and it makes that bring the chime on your phone, your dog barks. That's
Yeah,
all sound. They absolutely respond to sound. So your dog is much smarter than you realize. And they're already doing a lot of these things. And that's why Halo Collar is so brilliant. Things that your dog already understands now become trainable activities with the Halo Collar.
that's a great point. Actually, what's amazing is if my dog Rhesus, there's really two things she had to learn.
Mhm,
Beep, beep means fence,
mhm.
and whistle means come back.
Right.
And she had learned beep means fence when we got the invisible fence originally 10 and a half years ago. So she remembered that from 10 and a half years ago. As soon as she heard that beep, the first time I ever brought her to a new location
Right.
and threw the ball past the line,
Uh-huh.
she heard that beep, she stopped immediately. I was
Right.
like, amazing. So, dogs have been training and learning beep means fence since I was a kid with the invisible fence,
Right.
which is a long time. And then whistle means come back. Also, people call it clicker training, people call it whistle training. In the dog world, it's a standard type of training. You hit the whistle button, your dog comes, you give him a high value treat.
Right.
You do that 4 or 5 times, your dog is going to know whistle means come back. And if you reinforce it, just like you said with the doorbell, it becomes instinctual. It's Pavlovian, like it's known. So she knows beep means fence and whistle means come back. And it's now like I had this huge demo for a potential investor, as CEO. One of the things that people want to do is, get you out there and
Right.
do demos.
Right.
They were like, I want to see it. This guy who big potential investor was like, I want to see it in action. And so what I want you to do is bring it to my house, but not just you and the technology. I want you to bring your dog. I want you to set up the fence at my house and I want to see it work.
Wow.
So of course I was worried. I'm like, oh God, I hung up. I'm like, oh God, what am I going to do? So I called Caesar
Right.
and I was like, Caesar, what am I going to do? This is a huge demo. I'm like, what if she doesn't listen? I mean, if you think about it, it's just a beep coming out of the collar.
Right.
Or coming out of the collar.
She's like, Rhesus, don't let me down this time.
Yeah. Oh, I talked to her. Trust me. I give it the biggest pep talk of my life. She looked at me like I had 9 heads.
Right.
But in any event, he's like, look, Ken, it's instinctual to her. She gets it. So, and by the way, just as an FYI, I know I'm in the middle of the story, almost nobody returns it and says my dog couldn't learn it. I mean, that's
Right.
almost a 0% return. But in any event, I went to this demo, I set up the fence and it worked perfectly. The guy even took a piece of steak and went to the other side of the fence to try to get Rhesus to cross it, and she wouldn't cross.
That's
So it was
amazing.
really amazing. And I didn't even have to worry. It's just ingrained at this point.
Our dogs are so much smarter than we realize, number one. And when you do teach them these things and they do succeed and they make these connections with you, they feel so much better too. They're happy. They get the freedom, they get the happiness, and dogs love to learn. My dogs love to learn new stuff. And once again, sounds are everything. You think about if you knock on a desk, your dog will bark. That they didn't know that this when they came out of their mother's womb. They had no idea. They've learned that knocking means somebody new is at the door, and therefore either they want to alert you or they're happy that there's people around. So dogs will react to sound, and that's exactly what the Halo collar is built upon.
Definitely. I mean, I actually was at there was I guess like a trade show
Mhm.
of consumers, and people would come over and say, can my dog learn it? And right next to me was a parrot demonstration, and they had parrots riding a bicycle. I was like, if they could train parrots to ride a bicycle, I think your dog is going to figure out beep means fence and whistle means come back.
Right, exactly. You figure that out. Ken, before we let you go, I want to ask you, is there anything new on the horizon from Halo? Because I know that this is not the first generation collar. So I'm sure there are other things you guys are working on. There will be more generations to come along with more features on them.
Yes, well, we're launching Halo 2 actually, plus Halo 2 Plus. I apologize. Halo 2 is out there right now. Plus is going to have double the battery life
Oh,
of
wow.
today's Halo 2. Look, the bottom line is the battery life of Halo 2 is good enough. It's a day. It's just like your phone. At the end of the day, you plug it in on the charger.
Right.
In the morning, you put it back on your dog. But now it's going to be 23 hours. So, it's just double that time. If you forget to charge
Wow.
it one time, you'll be able to plug it in. The reason the battery life is only 23 hours is because, just so you have an idea, we leave the GPS on all the time because it could be 2 a.m. Your dog wakes up and you want to let him out. Most GPS products only work outdoors. They're only designed for outdoors.
Correct.
But ours has to work both, not indoors. You don't need to know your location indoors, but the second you get outside, it has to be accurate.
Right.
So we've, in order to do that, we have to leave it on all the time. So to us, the safety of your dog is the number one priority. But even with that, we've been able to make the battery last, as long as your iPhone. So we're very happy with that.
That's awesome. Well, you can get them online. Go to halocollar.com. Ken, thank you so much for your time. And we say that 10 million dogs a year are lost. We've got 1 million that are unfortunately hit by cars and don't make it. You guys are doing all this at the same time. You're saving lives and saving dogs. And that alone is, worth being noticed.
Well, look, that's the reason we're in it. It's the problem we've been trying to solve. It's the reason Caesar got involved. It's because it's such a big problem. And, dogs don't understand that cars are dangerous or that roads are dangerous. They're like a 2-year-old kid. So we need to help them. And technology now exists to do that.
Good deal. Ken, thank you so much. Once again, online at halocollar.com. Try it out. If you've got a dog, I guarantee you're going to love it. You're going to be happy. You're going to know that your dog is safe and their dog is going to have freedom, and therefore the dog's happy. So everybody is so much better off. But Ken, thanks for your time, man. Really appreciate you coming on the iHeartRadio CEO Unplugged podcast.
Thank you. It's been great to be here.